Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle and triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Sofija. Sofija has created a brilliant life for herself that can only be explained by her constant perseverance and do whatever it takes attitude. She is here today to talk about a different way of viewing life. She advises humans to be daring, to appreciate their failings, and most of all, to have multiple role models to mimic in order to keep a positive focus on life. Welcome, Sofija.
Thank you. It's really an honor to be on the show and to just share everything that I've gone through, especially because I'm so young. I'm 24, and I always feel that I haven't even experienced even like 1 inch of life yet. So, thank you again, Sabrina, for inviting me.
I would agree with you that you haven't experienced 1 inch of life. But what's so cool about this and why I'm so excited to have you on is because so many individuals your age are scared to do because of the lack of age that they see. And I feel like the things that you've done, the stuff you've accomplished, the daring acts or actions that you've taken to get to where you are right now, which at 24 is a lot, really helps other people your age, we're talking females here, your age, understand that, like, wow, really? Kind of like what we were talking about with this, like, yes, you can. And so I'm super excited to have you here and for you to kind of talk about the stuff that you've done that is not normal. That is not normal. I think you can agree with that.
Yeah, but it's so difficult to like adjust to that. I always say, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. Anyone can do that. And then people are like, no, no, that's just you.
Yes. Yes, it is just you. And yes, we can help other people kind of pull that out of themselves.
Definitely.
So I would like to start, this podcast is all based around storytelling. So I'm excited to hear, like, certain parts of your story and what you're comfortable sharing and excited about sharing. So I want to start with just the main question, which is, what's the biggest or the greatest challenge that you've had in your 24 years? And what did you learn from that challenge?
To be honest, the challenges right now in my lives are constantly changing. And from the first conversation that we had, a lot of things have changed. And I actually
Really?
want to share that. Yeah, I actually want to share that story with you.
Yes.
So I started working for a company in February, and it's a startup. It's been existed for 2 years, but it's a startup that does things very differently from normal companies. So there's no management, there's no leadership. You are basically in charge of what you do and what you want to accomplish in the company. And of course, there is one main goal of the company, which is, to sustain and to create revenue and all of that. But when it comes to you personally, you have full access and full freedom to explore anything that's of interest for you. And so recently, my biggest challenge is, because I'm one of the founding members of the startup, is that I have the knowledge of a senior marketer because I work in marketing. And it's very difficult with that knowledge and just having the years of experience, but not having companies see you as a senior and give you junior tasks. It's difficult to pivot. So that's my biggest challenge right now. But when it comes to my life, as we've discussed, I would really like to share the story of my operation. So during the corona crisis in 2020, when all of the world went berserk in Europe, in America, all over, um, I I had an emergency operation and it happened from the middle of nowhere. I just started experiencing pain and I just called my doctor and he was like, "Oh, you're just going to go to a little tiny bit of surgery. Nothing scary, nothing schmancy." And that turned into 7 months worth of recovery.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
And there were so many challenges that were involved in that. And first off, it was so psychologically difficult for me to go through that experience because my number one fear in life was operation. And now I had to live through it without my parents, without any mental support. I did this in Portugal while I was on my Erasmus exchange. That's a program in Europe where the European Union finances you to go study to a different university. So I was at a visiting university at the time, and it was just very scary. The first thing that happened was like, okay, I need to go to the doctors every week and I need to experience huge amount of pain. How do we do that when we're extremely scared to do this, you know? And honestly, like I actually remembered this yesterday. I was just like, go day by day.
Yeah.
Let's just survive today. Let's just make it through today. Let's just get out of bed and be able to walk for like 10 meters and we'll be fine. And this lasted for 7 months. And the way that this experience unfolded was that each day the pain would be less and less. For example, if I would have to go to the hospital on a Tuesday and experience really big amount of pain and even have the doctors be like, "Okay, Sofia, this is going to hurt a lot, but I need you to not move." And of course, as a human being, your primary thing in your mind is like, "I want to move. I want to move so badly. I want to move." And then you just try to do your best and stay still. Like the doctors had an understanding that I am 20 years old and that this is a really difficult experience for me. No one can visit because of corona and all of those things, and they were very understanding and supporting of me. And my doctor, who never gives out her personal contact, gave out her personal contact
Wow.
because yeah, I really needed someone to connect to while going through this experience. And I was constantly talking to people. As a huge extrovert, I was consistently talking to literally every single person in my field. Like I was talking to my friends, I was talking to my coworkers at the time. I was basically talking to anyone, and it was a lot, man.
So what did you learn?
Oh,
What were
what did I learn?
Yeah.
First of all, you need help. And it's great that you're a best badass bitch and that you can do things on your own and you're very young and you can do this and you can do that. But there's not a problem in being vulnerable. There's not, you shouldn't feel bad if you need help. That means you're strong enough to ask for it.
Yeah.
And knowing when to ask for help is one of the most difficult thing for women, because we're consistently, like right now, I feel that this is going on in the world, like, yeah, women can do it all, women are greatest men, blah 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 blah. But that doesn't mean that we don't need support and we don't need help in what we're doing. So that is the first thing. The second thing is, go day by day. Just take it slow. Like it's so difficult personally for me as an overachiever, as someone who's always tried to do the best thing in my life. It's always been very difficult to take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
And just slowing down, taking a step back, and just letting a little bit of control is so powerful.
Yeah. Definitely 100. So, as far as the, looking back, the 7 months go
Yeah.
and where you are now, are you good physically?
I am great. I am so good that I'm like trying to do a crow pose right now. And I'm like fully experimenting with yoga, with everything. I mean, I have like a little bit of pain left, and that's always, it's just gonna be a reminder that I went through that experience. But I am awesome. I'm great. I'm doing a lot of physical stuff and like nothing happens. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks
That's
for asking.
awesome. So, did you use any during this time? You kind of stated to take one day at a time, don't overthink things. Is there some sort of like a coach, a mentor, a book, a YouTube video, any self development or personal development that you did in order to recognize that that's the way that you were supposed to be viewing this
Yeah.
process? How did you do that?
So to be honest, when I first started with it, I didn't really do anything. But then, as time progressed and as I got more bored because I was basically tied to a bed and I just got up to cook some food, I started really going into self development and personal growth. And one of the first things that I read was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And that's such an important book in my life. As I said, like, I really struggle with taking one thing at a time. And this book is exactly about that. So just taking the tiniest little commitment to something and just sticking to it. So even if it takes like 5 minutes of your day, that's like awesome. For example, the first time that I started doing things normally, as I could start to walk and all of those things, I decided to just do 5 minutes of jumping rope every day. Just 5 minutes, nothing more.
Okay.
And then 2 years in, I can jump for half an hour without a problem. But it's just taking it very, very slow and building up. That's the first thing. The second thing is I did a lot of journaling. I decided to have a really big, deep look into what's going on for me as a process and just exploring everything that comes with it, asking the uncomfortable questions. And also, I was kind of forced by the hospital. They made me go to therapy. So I really had to, because it was very difficult. I experienced a lot of tremors, a lot of anxiety because you're I cannot even like picture the what was going through my head at that time because they were like, okay, Sophia, we're gonna come back and decide what we're gonna do to you today. And then your mind just goes on a spiral. You're like, oh my God, this is gonna hurt so much. What are they gonna do to me? What are they gonna touch? And especially because my surgery's in the lower part of my body and it's not, I cannot see it physically. That means I have to trust people. And it's super difficult to trust people that A, don't speak your language, you've never met them in your life, and next thing you know, they're basically just rolling around playing with your butt. And that's really intense. So they kind of made me go through therapy so that I can at least have calm reactions when they do something because my body would just like start doing like this. I'd
Yeah.
be like, I'm not controlling it. And they're
Yeah.
like, no, that's why you need to go to therapy.
Yeah.
So to anyone who's going through surgery or not even surgery but like something that's difficult for them and they're experiencing it for the first time, having a licensed therapist can help you so much more unlock your full potential. Because for me, that's how I understand personally therapy. I don't see it as someone who's supposed to tell me how to be better, but it's someone who's supposed to give me the tools to unlock it by myself.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I agree with that. As far as, thinking of personal development and the books that you've read in that arena, how is that helping you with just other things in your life besides these kind of traumatic things, just in your friendships, your relationships, business? How's it helped?
Oh, it helps. a lot. As I said, Atomic Habits has changed my life. How to Win Friends and Influence People is like my the favorite book ever. It's been actually written in the 1920s, and now it's 2022, and those things are still highly important. And everything that I experienced during therapy and during recovery time for surgery has helped me immensely in my personal life, in my relationships, and in the way I conduct business as well. Because um, going through that experience makes you very empathetic towards other people who are experiencing those things. And especially in my business life, I have a philosophy that I when I do marketing and when I do sales as well, I really like empathy, because I really like to connect to people and see if what I am offering them can help them. And that's definitely one way. Another way is it helped me be more consistent in everything in life. So when it comes to family, I'm very negligent sometimes of my family because I live abroad and I don't really talk to my family as often. But things like that book have made me give a higher focus to those things, because coming from a very traditional background, coming from a very traditional part of the Balkans in Europe, has literally taught me to value family a lot and value my friendships, because being at the top is lonely, and I don't want to be at the top if I don't have my homegirls and my homeboys to back me up. So yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I agree with that. When you think about your journey and you think about the highs and the lows that you've had over the course of your life, can
Mhm.
you give us an idea of maybe a few steps that you take during those times or that you've taken in your life to go from maybe a thought or a heaviness that's going on into a brighter point of view? Do you have like
Yeah.
a process that you use or have you used one?
I don't really have like a specific process to it. It's more of a mindset. So for me, there's no limitations. Especially after surgery, there is literally no limitations whatsoever. As we discussed, yes, you can, and yes, you should. And even if it's a mistake, I would rather do it than not. And actually, like, as being an extrovert and getting to talk to so many people on a daily basis, especially when I run into older, more experienced women specifically, I ask them, what's the number one advice you have for young people? And they all say the same thing. And that's just do whatever you want to do and don't hold back. Even if it's a mistake, that's the way to know that that's a mistake.
Yeah.
And that's been a life changer ever since. But when it comes to processes, I just really go full head on. I don't hold back. Yeah, of course, just like any other person my age, I'm like, yeah, and what if they think I'm not good enough? Or what if this is not working out? Or what if they don't like me? I test that theory out. I'm like, so if they don't like me, I will get negative feedback. And then I'll say, thank you for your feedback and move on. And if not, if something else happens, I'm like, great, this is another new experience. This is another person that I can connect to. I really want to share, like, for all the young people that are listening, I really want to say the story. And this is a story that happened to a close relative of mine. She's a brilliant artist. Like, she draws like Picasso. She's amazing at it, and she specializes in fashion design. And there was a competition in our country by the lead Macedonian designer. It was basically a contest for designs. And she didn't sign up for it because she thought she wasn't good enough. And the main prize was designing the ultimate thing that women are going to wear. And I literally wanted to kill her. I'm like, you idiot. If you don't try, no one is going to know how good you are. And I
Yeah.
always I always tell this to young women and even to men as well. No one is going to sell you. You have to sell yourself. And
Yeah.
that means by friendships, that means by relationships, because nowadays relationships are like a job interview. What are you doing? What are your plans in life? You have to sell them the idea that you're good enough. And it's also in the job perspective as well. Like young people right now struggle to get good jobs, and that's because they're afraid to ask for the salary that they want, they're afraid to ask for the job offering that they want. And my advice is just go head on. It might be a mistake, it might be the stupidest mistake you've ever made in your life, but just go for it, because then you have your 30s and your 40s to regret that shit.
Why
The
do you think so many I'm going to say females because I feel like this is more of a female thing.
yeah.
But I'm sure it's not. Have a tendency of doubting themselves. Where do you think that comes from?
Oh, we're constantly told we're not good enough
By who?
by the world, especially like if you think about it in the job market. Look at the disparity between the job market. Look at CEO that are females and male CEOs. Like women are consistently not given a chance to prove how much they're worth, because we're more emotional, because I don't know, we talk more about our problems and stuff like that. But to put a positive connotation to this is why scientifically proven females are better leaders than men, because we connect more to the people that we're talking about. And so many young people doubt themselves because nowadays we live in times where, we have social media and we're constantly thrown perfect lives. And for example, on LinkedIn, like people are just oversharing how much they've achieved things, even if that's not really a reality. Even if they're doing, I don't know, like just doing calls all day, it's just like a very basic thing. They're going to be like, I am a customer success manager. And that's great because it makes you go into positive thinking and makes you improve yourself. But it also makes a lot of people doubt themselves. I've literally encountered brilliant, smart young women in my life who are consistently scared to share who they really are because they think the world is not going to approve of who they are. And that's the problem. We consistently think that we need other people's approvals.
Yeah, I agree. How did you figure out that that wasn't a thing? Did you have a mom, dad, church?
Um, I mean, I've always had really really supportive parents. So to everyone who's like older and have kids, like if you really try to talk and connect to your kid, especially in the teenage years, like that's just gonna do wonders for them if they can feel safe to share things with you. Because my parents never ever judged me for what I did in my life, and I've been a rebel kid. And for me, my process when it comes to that, like the most recent failure that I had was I lost what I thought was my dream job at the time. I worked for this really hot marketing agency that was the top of the class in the country even, and they've worked with the biggest names and everything. And then they just decided to let me go after 3 months. And I consistently told myself that it's not really about me, and it's really about them. And when I first started to go into this process, I wrote this lengthy email telling them I because I applied in the country where I live, which means I'm not a native speaker of the language. And working in marketing and copywriting and having to convey emotion, that's very difficult when you're not a native writer.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I wrote this super lengthy email and just sent it out to 20 companies. And I was like, if nothing happens, nothing happens. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not who I think I am. But having the attitude as if you already know what you're doing, like I think that's very important for young people. Like just pretending to know what you're doing kind of already opens the door, because a lot of people, especially when it comes to hiring specifically, they really just value enthusiasm in young people. And for me, how I deal with my doubts is I either go for validation towards people, I go to my parents, I go to my friends, and I definitely go to my mentors. And I think mentorship is incredibly important for young people, because if I didn't have two mentors in my life, I don't think I would be as cocky, as ambitious as I am. So mentorship is just
What
brilliant.
wound up happening with the 20 letters?
Actually 19 companies said no. And then the 20th said yes, and that was basically my dream company. And they were so excited by the letter that I wrote. They were like, why can I not get more emails like this so I make my job more fun, because they were working in HR. And I remember just the email was very simple. I was like, I might not be the greatest speaker of the Slovene language in the country, but I work in marketing, I worked in sales, I've done this and this and this, and just like literally just told them about all of my accomplishments, and I even told them about the surgery. And I'm like, I am daring, and I don't care if I make a mistake, but I want to have the chance to make that mistake with you. Do you want to give me the opportunity? And then I ended it in the most cockiest way possible on the planet. And I'm like, so when are we having an interview?
And then they called.
And then they called.
Wow.
They
Wow.
were very, very happy to work with me. And actually, my hiring manager, we're still in contact, and she still supports me in everything I do. It's just I wasn't a good fit for that company because I was very dominant, and it was a big corporation, and they just had a bunch of stuff at the time. And I didn't fit in a company of 150 people, because I'm not one of those people who are just gonna say, yeah, I agree with you. I'm always going to challenge your opinion. And in the company where I work right now, that is actually highly valuable. That's basically my number one skill. And a lot of young people are very scared that just because they don't have the experience to apply for a job, they kind of think that they're not good enough for the position. But they kind of forget about enthusiasm, about asking the right questions, and also about being cunning and having the ambition to ask the very difficult questions.
Yeah. No,
So,
I can totally see that. Is
yeah,
that something that you would advise young ones to do? To step out like that and
definitely. Even what's the worst thing it can happen? They're gonna say no. So what? Just being a young person, you're gonna get rejected by hundreds and thousands of companies. Even if you're the greatest copywriter, or I don't know, the greatest marketer or content creator, or I don't know, analyst, or whatever, like whatever it is that you do, or I don't know, you work in pharmacy or something, or being a developer, people are going to say no to you. And that's okay, because that means you're not the right fit for that company. That means someone else who has your values and the way you do things is going to come up. You have to be daring though. Like that's really the advice. You cannot give up, because 150 people are gonna say no to you. To me, 19 people said no, and one company said yes. I always had the thought in my head, I'm not good enough to work in a Slovene company, because that's something I've been consistently told during university. My writing is not good enough in the native language, but that's okay. I don't have to work in the native language. I can work freelance, and I can work with a bunch of awesome, great companies that I did in the past time. And that's what young people really limit themselves to. So, definitely, my advice I basically have two advices that are very important. One, get a mentor. They're going to tell you when is the right thing to go really hard at things, and when it's time to, just calm down and slow and get back a little bit on track. Because like I think that people nowadays, we can get like really cocky, like our generations can get like really cocky, and having someone more experienced and someone who's gone through that way be like, okay, come back a little bit, you're just like pushing too far. Or it can go in the other direction. They can tell you, you're not being cunning enough, maybe you need to do something else, maybe you need to do something that's bold and daring, and they can help you achieve it. They're going to be the people that are going to give you the feedback on how to make a good job or how to do a good task, because a lot of companies nowadays have tasks before you get to the interviews and all of that. And the second thing is, write out a bunch of letters. Try it out. Even if you're the shittiest person for the job, apply for it. You have no idea what's going to happen. But if you really want to get a job, do something different from other people, because other people, like, I get it, it gets really tiring to constantly be creative about applying for jobs. I had that process myself. How I deal with it is just try to do for the jobs that you really want to apply,
Yeah.
like you really want to work with them, give out your 100%. Stalk them, comment on their stuff on social media, do videos, talk on your Instagram, like make people be like, support me, I really want this job desperately. And the community is gonna come to your help. Like, people nowadays forget how important and how valuable communities are,
Yeah.
because people want to feel a part of something. And the emotion of that really just takes it to another level.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Did you start working like this right out? I mean, not working like this, but on this daring adventure right out of college, or was this before college?
Way before college. So I got my first job when I was 16, and that was basically the first really batshit daring shit that I did. And probably a lot of people are going to relate to what I'm about to say next, but I just remember writing the email, like the first email for a job, and I was like, psh, as if they're going to reply. Next thing you know, I get a reply. And so, how the whole story went is that I was 16, zero professional experience, very cunning, very ambitious, very boss at my things, zero working ethic. I have to be honest, like, I was just not there yet. But that's just something you build up on.
Yeah.
So I would advise to a lot of people to not hold back on the fact that, oh, I'm not responsible enough, or just being highly critical of themselves. That's great, but allow yourself some space to grow. That's the first thing. And how that story went is, I wrote this email and I'm like, hi, I really like your publication. I would love to write for you. And I would just love to have the chance to do whatever it is that you do. It was this simple. And then I get a reply and they're like, do you know English? And I'm like, yes, I've had courses of the English language, and I've actually been writing for a long time, and I've did poetry, and I've did a bunch of stuff. And they're like, awesome, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you three examples, we're going to give you three tasks, and if they're good enough, then we can talk about you starting an internship. And that's basically the reason why I am who I am. And like, I really have to shout out to Irina, like my first mentor. She's the first person who ever gave me a chance. And this is also for older people and hiring managers, if they're listening. Give young people a chance if they're ambitious. They might not know exactly what they're doing, but that's the beauty of it. You can guide them, and you have the opportunity to shape young people. And that's not something that young people get a lot nowadays. And I just remember, like, everything that was going through my head. I'm like, ugh, what if she doesn't reply? What if I'm not good enough? And this is something that I've been going through at it my whole career. And even like, I've just listened to this really good show, and it was about the greatest stand-up comedians in the world. So it was like, I don't really remember the names right now, but it was like all of the big names, and they were like, so what if I bomb on stage? And the biggest comedians of the world still wonder, if they go out on stage, is the audience going to hate their material?
100.
Yeah, and if people like that doubt themselves, what is left for me? I'm a nobody. No one knows who I am.
Yeah.
And then it kind of makes you slow down and be more daring, because that also gives you the opportunity. And also, having her by my side, I just remember she made me go through the whole book of writing for our language. And she said, you're not going to write a single article until we go through this. And I know that you're going to do a good job. And she mentored me towards the whole process. And I'm not gonna lie, there were situations when she was gonna be like, hey, we need to talk, and I would just lay down on the ground and just start hyperventilating as crazy. And I'm like, oh, what is she gonna say now? What did I do wrong? But all of those things make you way stronger, and having someone to guide you through that way is just very, very important.
Yeah, definitely. That reminds me of, I saw Kevin Hart. Do you know who Kevin Hart is? The comedian?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
some, he was doing some interview somewhere, I don't know where, but he said very similar to what you said, where he trained, like he's huge now. He like sells out whole stadiums of like whatever,
Yeah.
arenas. But every single time before he does a tour, he goes through this whole process for like a year or two with his new material. So he like
Exactly.
creates material, and he actually does still to this day. He does he starts out at little tiny dive bars,
Yeah.
and comedian type places, little small places all over the place to test out his material. Then he moves to like kind of like bigger venues that like sell out, like
Yeah.
improv comedy and stuff like that are like maybe a few hundred people, and he
Yeah.
tests it out again. And as he's going through this process, he puts stuff in, he takes stuff out according to the laughter, because he's like, there's times when I have shit that I think is super hilarious and the audience hates it.
Nope. Yeah.
So, and then once he goes through that whole process of like 40 or 50 times of doing this all over the country in different small little tiny places,
Mhm.
then once he feels confident in the material, he then does a tour. But people don't recognize that. People just think like, oh, Kevin Hart is selling out another tour because he's brilliant. But
Mhm.
actually, he goes through the same little itty bitty annoying process every single time to get to this really big product. But not
Exactly.
everybody sees that behind the scenes stuff. Not everybody knows. Like if I see Kevin Hart at a little improv, I just assume like he's just visiting us to like be
Oh, they're
nice.
testing
But
it.
he's
Yeah.
not. He's actually using us to better his material so that he can do a tour in a year or so. So it's kind of similar to what you're saying. It's like
Exactly.
they have the same exact issues, the same exact bombs and failings
Yeah.
that everybody has. It's just we don't necessarily see it.
Yeah. And actually that's for the last 2.5 years I've been a lot around CEOs, because for the longest time I wanted to be a CEO. And so how I do things, I'm like, I'm going to look at someone, what works for them, because that's also what we do in copywriting. I would look at what makes this person successful, and I would start to mimic it in my own little way for the things that work for me. And what's really interesting about CEOs, they're not afraid of making a mistake.
Yeah.
Constantly make mistakes, because that's the way how you learn and grow. So definitely, like, just failing as much as you can, as fast as you can in your 20s. Go for it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely. What do you think is the meaning of life?
Oh, 42. To expand on that, that's actually, do you know the quote, by the way?
No?
Oh, it's from The Hitchhiker's Guide from the Galaxy.
Okay.
It's a really funny story. I've seen the movie. I haven't read the book yet, but it's a book by Douglas Adams for anyone that wants to know. So there's the all-knowing computer, and the people go through it and ask them, "What is the meaning of life?"
Okay.
And then the computer is like, "You have to come back in 10,000 years," and they're like, "Seriously, we have to wait for that long?" And they're like, the computer is like, "Hey, it's a complicated question." And so people being humans, like being people, they make this massive big charade with parties, and today is the day that we get the answer to the meaning of life. And the computer, and they're like, "Hey computer, so what's the meaning of life?" And the computer is like, "Ooh, you're not gonna like this." And they're like, "What is the answer? Tell us right now. You're really not gonna like this. What? Tell it to us. We need to know. We want to know." And the computer just goes like, 42. And I would say, like, how I interpret that is that everyone creates their own meaning of life. Everyone has the power to decide how their life is going to be. Personally, for me, the meaning of my life is to help people. It's all I want to do in my life. And that's why I try to do um, I try to do sessions, and I've actually created a community in my country for women to get mentorship and to get older women open their doors for them first, because it's so much easier to enter with the door if you have a referral. That's super important. And but generally the meaning of life, 42. It's simple as that.
Is that for real? That's like in a movie?
Yeah. And it's in a book, and it's super hilarious, and it's super sarcastic.
Wait, I
Oh,
feel like this is something that my fiance told me to watch and I never watched. What's it called?
I'm gonna write it in the chat. So it's called the
Yes.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's a book by Douglas Adams originally. It's really, really
And
cool.
then that's it. Like the thing just says 42 and then that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, because it's
And
a
then is
super.
everyone just like, what?
Oh no, the humans were like, they were like, seriously, we waited 10,000 years for this. But if you think about it, it's super subjective what the meaning of life is, and to a computer, it's just a mathematical number. It's just calculations and
Wow.
calculations over and over again.
Wow. Crazy. So
Yeah.
I know that you're 24,
Yeah.
but at the age of 24, what would you say success means to you?
Ooh, ooh, what success means. Personally, I have one vision, and there's the vision of what everyone else wants you to be because you're 24, and people think that they have the power to tell you what to do. Even if my parents are not control freaks, they still have aspirations for their kids. Like, they're ambitious because I also have an older brother. And then at the age of 24, a lot of people will expect you to get out of school, get a high paying job. I mean, entry level job, whatever. Um, and basically have your finances in order as much as you can, and have a stable life, and also be in a relationship. Like, coming from the Balkans, being in a relationship and being married at the age of 24 is considered an achievement. Personally, for me, success would mean that I am progressing in my career. And it doesn't matter how much, it just means that I am better from the version that I was yesterday, that I am just one step further than where I was. That's when it comes to professional life. When it comes to personal life, basically just slowing down and focusing what you want to focus on, and not what other people wants to do. So again, success is very, very subjective, but to be honest, I think my mother has the best definition of success. It's peace. You're successful when you're at peace. That's her definition of success. And she's like 52. She's born 1968, so I don't I'm terrible at math, so I don't know, but I call her the reincarnation of Buddha, because she always handles things very calmly, and she's like, conflict is never the answer, let's talk about things. And I actually asked her, and I'm like, Mom, what is your definition of success? And she was like, at the age of 52, very simple, that I'm at peace, that I don't worry about things, and that if even if things are not going my way, I can improve them, but I feel at peace at myself. Especially living in such a difficult time that we are, when technology is like da 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 da, and we're constantly bombarded with successes and achievements and this and that and it's so important to just, take a step back and just meditate, breathe it out, and just figure out what your own definition of success is. For me, I really see my career as my main success. I don't really care that much for marriage and having kids. It's not something I see myself as doing as much. And of course, a lot of people have opinions about those things. But success is definitely, for me, having my own company, helping out women, and I definitely want to start doing coaching. I see myself as a person who would be a great coach eventually. And it's never too late to start. So
Yeah, 100%. Any age. Any
exactly.
age, definitely. What
What's your
would you
definition of success, by the way? I really want to know.
what's my definition?
Yeah.
It would be the same, exactly the same.
Wow.
That's actually what I say, for real.
Wow. You
Yeah,
should meet
I
my
think
mother.
ah!
You should definitely meet her.
I think that when all the things are aligned, so my
Yeah.
curriculum teaches health, relationships, prosperity, and joy. There's four circles to life.
Mhm.
And when you are at a position where all those things are flowing well, you have
Mhm.
a sense of peace. And at that point, I feel as if you're successful.
Exactly.
You're successful.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Mm.
One thing that I would add to that is I believe in constantly evolving.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yes, to have a sense of peace, but then to also, I think that you can only stay stagnant in a peaceful state for a very short amount of time until you need to progress and add.
Yeah. And
So,
also, like, if I can just add, like, having a self evaluation, like, I don't know, once a week, once a month, or whatever, to see if you're on track to where you want to go is also super important. Like, for example, in journaling, if you do journaling prompts for a longer time, you're going to start to notice patterns that happen within you, and you can improve. And those things kind of make you want to improve, because you're like, ugh, I don't really like this about myself. Let's see if I can be better. So, definitely.
that's awesome. What would you wish for?
Hmm. As in life? Hmm. That's a really good question. What would I wish? I mean, definitely, I would wish. Right now, I really wish the war in Ukraine would end, like the war between Russia and Ukraine. I have so much friends in Ukraine, and if someone from there is listening, like, the whole world is with you. Seriously, like, what's going on? It's such a big tragedy, and just war everywhere, not just in Europe, but in Palestine and Israel, everywhere that was happening war. Like, war is just, so that would be the one thing. But what I personally wish for myself is that I allow myself to slow down. Like, I'm constantly doing 150 things, and then I would get burnt out, and then I would do like 4 months of like sabbatical and just to, recharge. But then I would do it again. And again, my mom says, Sophia, life is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and you're supposed to run it through your whole goddamn life.
Definitely, 100. You know what's interesting about that, which I would agree with your mother.
Yeah.
However, they do say that individuals who do it a little more like you are actually more successful.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because that push that you do
Mhm.
is so aggressive that you're
Yeah.
flying forward at such a rate and usually taking people with you, right, in a
Mhm.
business or to the top or whatever it is, that it really allows a catapult to happen. So I would
Mhm.
say don't get rid of that, but maybe adjust.
Yeah.
And I would say to make sure that those stints of quietness that you have to have because of a burnout isn't as long.
It depends. Like, when
And I
I
would
was
say to
16,
not call it a burnout. I think you're just
oh,
recharging.
mm, yeah, but the problem with ambitious people, I would say, is that we wanted everything always, and we
Yeah,
want it now.
yeah,
And it's good,
yeah.
but it's not a long-term strategy. Like, for example, when I was 16,
Okay.
I like when I started that job, I was like, I'm gonna sleep when I'm dead. So what I would do is just, I would have a meeting at like 9 a.m. and discuss what needs to be written, and then go to bed, and then get up at like 1 2, finish my job as much as I can, and then get ready, go out, party till 7 in the morning, and then do it all over again.
Mm.
At the age of 24, I cannot even have an all-nighter anymore, because I'm just exhausted. I
Yeah.
am so tired, and I had to study for an exam. Like, I'm finishing my master's right now, and I had my last exam, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do an all-nighter and prepare this exam. Nope. Went to bed at 11.
Yeah, and
So
I think that that's you listening to your body 100%.
exactly.
And I do think that when we're younger, there
Yeah.
is, which that's what we're kind of talking about today, is just embrace it while you're young. And I think that that's true. I think that you can do more, work on less sleep when you're a tad bit younger, and then once you start getting into your 30s and your 40s, and you get connected to somebody, you maybe have babies and you have mortgages and all of that stuff. It gets a little more cumbersome to actually do that stuff. But I appreciate people like you who have that ambition and that those spurts. I think that the breed that you are is very far and in between. And I think that individuals that are possibly quieting that within them can learn
Mhm.
something from you and your story for sure.
Definitely. Definitely. And also, like, for young people out there, is that why I've had so many mentors is that the thing about older people and older generations, they see themselves in you. Like, I literally, so in my last job where I'm right now, my boss actually told me that he didn't want to hire me because he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to, because I'm cunning, I'm ambitious, and I'm aggressive, which means I'm gonna push you when you don't really want to be pushed, which can be great for business, but not really great for relationships. And he told me, and he was like, I did not want to hire you because I'm not sure if I like you because you're awesome, you're quirky, you're, crazy, or I like you because you remind me so much of myself. And if I had a penny for every single time that a professional who's in my field has told me, you remind me so much of myself, I would be a millionaire. And that's what young people need to do. Like, if you mimic older, more experienced people in the way they do, and you just have the ambition and the wish for growth, like the need for growth as much,
Mhm.
older people are going to recognize that, and they are going to want to take you under their wing, because one, they're going to want to protect you from making the mistakes that they did if they can, and two, teach you the lessons that you as a young person need to go through. Because I really think that young people nowadays, and like myself even, we have really big egos, and it's good, but sometimes, you need to know where your place is at
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
You definitely need to shoot forward, like, definitely, but also having respect for someone more experienced in the room and listening more is highly important.
Yeah. Definitely. What would be some advice you'd give to females who are struggling with um, taking that step forward into a little more of a daring or aggressive persona?
Start by little. Don't do it if you like, especially for women that are more shy. Like, this really goes for the introverts. Given their background, just take one tiny step at a time. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to write like 20 emails the way I did. Write one email, write one sentence. Like, your message can be the shyest, tiniest messages, but one little spark of just like a hint of being brave, and take it one day at a time. And then you're like, if you take it one day at a time, you're constantly gonna improve. And if you do it all, then it might be too aggressive, or it might be too much, and you never know. So if you are struggling to go through that, take it one step at a time. Start by writing one message, start by applying for one job, and take it on from there. But if you feel the pressure that you have to need to get a job, you need to get your life in order because everyone else wants you, and being a young person, that can really, like, really push on your head, then definitely do it all. Do it all. Like, there's not a chance that it's gonna go bad. What can happen? They're gonna say no, or they're gonna say you're a shitty person, bye. So what? I've literally had one of the worst things that happened to me in my 8 years as a writer is that I had a company who thought my work was shit, and they never told me. And I literally said to them, is like, you can like, writing is extremely subjective, thoughts are extremely subjective, and that's fully okay. if you tell me my work is shit. At that time, I felt like shit because I knew that the quality of the work is not good enough for them. And that's because I just didn't have the knowledge of their company on how to do it right. And I really went through that episode. What if I'm charging too much? What if I'm not good enough? And then I was like, hey, no, we do not really do those thoughts around here. Those thoughts, we had them once, we're passing, and then we're going.
Mm.
Because on the market, there's always someone who's going to buy your services, especially in freelance. There's always going to be people who are interested in what you do. And because as what was his name? Oh, he's the greatest guy in marketing. I can't really remember her name, but people who work in Seth Godin. There it is, Seth Godin. As Seth Godin said, people do not buy products. People connect to the people that are selling those products. People really want to work with you because you're you, not because you're the greatest writer of all time. Honestly, just go on Fiverr and you're gonna find writers for $5 who are probably greater at it than I am. But people want to work with me because of my quirky personality, because I'm not afraid to ask for the things that I want. And self doubt is constantly going to be present. As we talked with the comedians, as we talked with Kevin Hart,
Yeah.
you're always going to be afraid whether to bomb, and then just test it out. If you're so afraid, ask for feedback. Give your CV to 10 people and give it to 10 hiring managers and always ask for feedback. Especially in America, I think that because there's so many applicants, there's so many job positions and all of that, companies forget to give feedback to people. But
Yeah.
feedback is so important. And if they don't, give them a call and be like, "Hey, I recently applied for your job. Can you please tell me what it is that was good about me and what are things that I can improve?"
Yeah.
A really good thing that happened is that before this job, when I was applying for jobs, I applied in a really hot marketing agency in Slovenia that was really new and really young, but I thought they were doing a really good job at like starting out, so I really wanted to work with them. And even their hiring process was they had questions like, how would you guess who's the oldest member of our team? And they had questions like this. And of course, I was super interested to apply, and I applied. And then they said no. But what was different is the CEO of the company personally contacted me in like the letter of like declining me. They were of like the letter of rejection. He was like, I know that a lot of young people struggle with starting off. So you can ask me for what it is that you want to know. Like, I can basically tell you, like, you can ask for feedback. I was like, well, this is very refreshing in the job market. And I literally asked him, so why do you not think that, why was I declined for this job? And they're like, well, Sofia, you're great, you're a jack of all trades, but right now we're looking for a person who lives and breathes digital strategy and marketing, and you are all over the place. You've done a bunch of things. You've done content marketing. You've went into product marketing. You've done this. Da, 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 da. You're just not the type of person that we're looking for, and that's fine, because this feedback made me personally go for positions that are looking for more all over the place kind of people, and there are companies like that.
Yeah. There are.
Especially startups.
Strong.
Startups
Yeah.
love it. And
Yeah.
startups are a great way to start out your career.
Yeah.
If you have a chance to go to a startup as a young person, do it. You're going to grow, you're going to get the experience, and it's going to be hectic as hell. It's going to be hectic. And that's going to force you to grow so much and become a senior as fast as you want it to do. So, just to sum it up, basically the number one advice is start small. The second is advice is give ask for feedback from companies, and the third thing is um just be daring and be bold and do it all. Like, if you want to do it all, just go ahead and do it.
I
And if
love
not,
it.
take it little by little by little.
I love it. I love it. Well, this was absolutely phenomenal. I
Yeah.
so appreciate you being here and sharing. The age bracket that you're in, I just think is such a brilliant age to be at. And I love that you are daring and you're doing as much as you're doing, not taking no for an answer, not letting your supposed or perceived failures get you down and continuing to put one step in front of the other. So I think a lot of individuals your age, they get caught up in the no's, they get caught up in the failings, and they have to kind of sit in the muck for a while. And you're kind of just showing like, yes, all of that, and we have to get up and we have to do it again. And I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's so easy to fall back and be like, oh, I'm a failure, I'm not good at what I do. But then if you don't fail, how are you going to know that you're on the right track? How are you going to know that what you're doing has potential if you've never made a mistake in your life? You're never
100.
gonna, yeah.
100. Well, I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Sofija. I appreciate you being here. For those of you that are watching live, we appreciate you being here, hanging out with Sofija and I while we talk about her journey. For those of you that made it this far and are still watching and on the replay, make sure that you hashtag replay so that we know that you were here and you watched, and we would love to send you some love. I am going to go ahead and close out. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. Until next time, much love.